Hello everyone and welcome back to another Batman Miniature Game 3rd Edition Battle Report. And today we have 350 rep of the League of Assassins versus 350 rep of the Cobra Kali Yuga, or Yugi, they've got a complicated name. A cult, which is different from a crew and different from a team, has a bunch of unique stuff that we'll go over as we look at the teams and get things started. So here's the easy to cover League of Assassins crew first of all, being led by Ra's al Ghul, and because the leader of his opponent today can only be on a large base because that's all he came with, he is on his large base so that he doesn't feel inadequate. He is arrogant after all. He's been accompanied by Robin, well Damian Wayne I guess in this instance, Ubu, his bodyguard, and then his acolytes 1, 2, 3 and 4. 2 is the one with the blades. I don't know why I always remember that one, but I do. 3 is the hawk one, 1 is the sword guy, and 4 is the bow guy with the enervating arrow, and he has a poison arrow as well. So the new crew slash cult on the table, the Cobra Kali Yuga cult. I'm just going to call them Cobra Cult for brevity's sake. So this is most of, but not all of, the bat box you get for them because you get too many miniatures to field in a 350 rep team. They have special rules regarding taking on free agents, but this is a pure Cobra Cult team, so we don't have to worry about that this time. We'll cover it in the future though. It's being led by Kobra. That's his supervillain name. His actual name is Jeffrey, which is actually really funny. So it's being led by Jeffrey, and there's one of my dog's hairs on the table already. Just set this table up as well. The lady on his base is just there for flavour, I guess. So he also has the Nagus, which is back there, the Void Priest, the Bestowed rather, but he has the Void Priest rule, which we'll cover in a second. We have a Cobra hybrid, which is one of his basic troops. He's turned into a giant snake hybrid monster. We have Lady Eve, which is kind of like his enforcer. She's pretty tough. She has an enervating gas, and other than she's good with her sword. Then we have the Lance Corporal, I think he's called. No, sorry, Lance Head Soldier. There at the back there, double blood sword. And then with a carbine rifle, we just have, he's called Lance Head 2. He doesn't get an official name. So the shtick with this cult is they generate faith points within a turn, and then at the end of the turn any unused faith points are lost. Every time one of them activates, 1 faith point. If they have the fervent follower rule, which I think only one of them does, Lady Eve, that's 1 additional one just at the start of the turn. And if they successfully land an attack, they generate 1 faith point. Faith points can be spent by anyone with the Void Priest rule or anyone within 8 of the leader. There is a normal tree of buffs they can buy with their faith points, and then there's a Void Priest table, which I believe only people with the Void Priest rule can use. It's a little confusing. We'll cover more specifics such as their Cobra armor as we play the game, but for now we're just going to get things set up in the standard 8 inches on either side deployment again, just to keep things simple because they've got some complicated rules. So both teams are deployed. The Cobra Cult are on the left and will be taking first activation, with the League of Assassins on the right, and we can take a quick pan over here to see who has Audacity and where they are placed. Another thing to mention about what the Cobra Cult can do with their faith points that they generate within a turn, they have a special rule called Cobra Tactics, and the way that works is for a cost of 3 faith points they can basically do a dual activation. So during someone's turn, if they spend 3, someone else can also activate without any interruption, and they can actually do it I think 3 times in total, but you would obviously need to use a lot of faith points to do it, but it would let them do a lot of attacks at once before any kind of retaliation could come back. So anyway, that says both teams are set up. There is no cards being played in Phase 1 or Phase 2 Battle Round 1, so we are just jumping straight into the action. So the Lancehead Soldier got the game started in Battle Round 1. He didn't have Audacity, but he was within 8 barely of the large base of the leader, so he did have a free manipulate. He did a move action. He has movement 2, which translates into 8 inches in 3rd edition, so he moved there, then he used his manipulate to put down a suspect marker. He also used Cobra armor, which doesn't seem to be an action, it's just a thing they can do, and the way it works in 3rd edition is they exert themselves for 1 effort and they get +1 defense. And the way those defense markers work, in case you're curious, is in the compendium, not the rulebook, which is confusing, but you can store or you can bank up to 3, they apply to the next time they're hit, and just gives a bonus to the stat that's relevant, because you can get attack buff as well, but this is defense, which would make him defense 4 for the first attack that smacks him. Ubu activated with Audacity, he did a move action for 10 inches to where you can see him, which is outside of the deployment by 2. Well, actually it's over 2, it's like 3.5. and he used a manipulate to put down a suspect marker. Nothing else done there. Back over to the Cobra cult. So Lance Head Soldier 2 was up next. They have the minion row incidentally, so you can have up to 3 of them in a list and they can be identical. He started next as leader, but he had audacity. He did a move action, and then he placed a suspect marker just outside of the, well, 10 inches because it was 8 inches deployment. And he also exerted one effort to buff his defense via his Cobra armor as well. League Acolyte 4 with the bow and audacity activated. He moves 10. He kind of twisted around the wall there to avoid having impaired movement. He went right next into base-to-base contact with the sewer grating there, but didn't manipulate it. Instead put down a suspect marker. It seems like both teams are desperately vying to place down markers. So we're back over here. The Cobra Hybrid activated with audacity. Moves 10, so he moved into the alleyway here. And as you can see, he put down a suspect marker as well, which is just outside of 4 of the other ones, so it is a legal placement. Definitely vying for most suspect markers on both sides, I think. Acolyte 2 activated without audacity, but close enough to Raish that he was given a free manipulate, so he moved 10 and placed down a suspect marker. We're definitely sticking to the theme. The Nagus was next up. He just moved his 8 inches forward. He is too close to a current suspect marker to place one of his own, so he's just following up there, and despite the way the miniature looks, he does actually come with a gun. He's got an automatic pistol. The man himself, Raish Al Ghul, activated. He moved forwards his full 10, making use of his larger base. He placed a suspect marker outside of 4, but all 3 are within 6 of each other. Scoring, we cannot be defeated. Have at least 3 friendly suspect markers in play that are within 6. They are all within 6 of each other, but outside of 4 to obey the rules for placing suspect markers, friendly ones. So that is 2 victory points. First scorer on the scoreboard. Lady Eve activated with audacity. She did a move action for 10 inches to get where you can see her. She then placed a suspect marker and exerted one effort to boost her defense via Cobra armor, which puts her at defense 5. So she's pretty sturdy now for the first time she gets smacked anyway. So that's the moment that Damian Wayne was waiting for. He used his special action to activate his back claw. He fired off down to where you can see him and he placed a suspect marker in order to score under their noses. Place a suspect marker within 4 of an enemy suspect marker. Smack dab, because remember the rules for not within 4 apply to friendly ones, not enemy ones. So that is another 2 points on the scoreboard for the League of Assassins. And now it's over to the Cobra Cult leader or his Void Priest. So the Void Priest did not have audacity, but he just moved up for his action, and then he spent 2 faith points, or maybe it was 3, on the Void Priest table, which specifically it says whether or not only a leader can do it, whether someone with a Void Priest can do it, or if anyone can do it. And he did the one which targets a friendly model within 6. He is picking Lady Eve. She gains +2 attack and poison on the next on the next combat she initiates. So that puts her at attack 6 that with the poison effect. That seems pretty good and pretty cheap as well, especially because the points are going away at the end of the turn anyway. So now it's over to one of the 2 acolytes that haven't activated yet, and neither of which have audacity. So Acolyte 3 just did a move action for his activation. Down there, I guess both the ranged guys are hoping to take some pot shots at the Cobra Cult members coming up the street there before they can get in and get dangerous. So now it is over to Jeffrey to end the turn for the Cobra Cult. So Jeffrey is just straight on in there. He is charging down to where everyone is hanging around, and he is not to be underestimated. He has a Batman stat line: 5 attack, 5 defense. I think he's got a pretty good weapon. He's a martial artist. He's got reinforced gloves. He's no pushover. You'd think he hides behind his cult, but he does not need to. He can hold his own. So to end off Battle Round 1 proper, we have him. So there wasn't much to his activation. He simply moved in to reinforce the middle as well. He's slow first turn, but it's going to get very bloody very quickly. But first we have to see if there's any end of turn scoring to be done. No additional cards being played at the end of Battle Round 1, so things are as they stand, with the 2 objective cards scored for the League of Assassins. Everybody who self-wounded via effort will heal that stun damage back now, and as we go into Battle Round 2 to see if any objective cards are being played in Phase 1 or 2 of that, it is the Cobra Cult that will be getting first activation again. So at the start of Battle Round 2 you can see who has Audacity for the most part right down here, because the big brawl is going to happen in the car park, but there is also some Audacity markers issued over here, none over here, and there is one card being played in the first phase. From the shadows, target an enemy model, mark them as an objective. If the objective model is the first one to be removed as a casualty this round, score this card. Poor Mr. Man with his carbine rifle is now marked, and this card is in play for the round. So Lady Eve was the first activation to take advantage of that buff she got last turn with +2 attack and poison on her strikes with her double blood sword, putting her at strength 6, and she went up against Damian Wayne, and she just did 12 blood damage to him, so she killed him 2.5 times over. Scoring, they must know pain for doing at least 6, so they're on the scoreboard now. Damian Wayne is not getting an activation because he's dead. It's an Audacity marker wasted. This is why you don't go on field trips with Grandpa. Acolyte 2 activated with Audacity charged down the field after the poor carbine target slashed away with his combo knives, 1 blood each, 4 got through, and that was indeed enough to remove him, so that has scored. Although a little query about the defense buff put him at defense 3 not defense 2, because usually it's quite low defense 2. Does that only apply to the number to equal or beat when rolling for his attack rolls, or does it also apply to the number of defense rolls he gets to roll afterwards? Rolled 3 just in case, and it wouldn't have made a difference. That's what brought it down to 4 damage. So he's dead either way, just wasn't sure how it would have applied, because it is meant to be a 1 attack buff that he gave himself, but is 1 attack including the attack and the defense part. Wasn't sure about that, but either way. The Cobra hybrid activated with Audacity. He jumped out from the alleyway, charged right into base-to-base combat with one of the bow acolytes, I forget which, 3? I think it was, no, not 3, that was 4. He attacked him with his fangs, which have crit paralysis on them, and just poison in general. 2 attacks got through for 2 blood, 2 stun because they do 1 blood, 1 stun each, and also poison, which in turn scored I'm feeling weird. Inflict an effect on an enemy. Poison is an effect. So that is 2 victory points for the Cobra cult, and he is wounded, and that poison is not going to go away. Ra's al Ghul activated, and he activated Critical Blow, or whatever his special skill is called, which gives him crit kill. So if you get a crit on the strength die, you just kill who you're hitting. And then played his unique, Lord of the Pit. So if you're within 8 of the enemy boss, which he was, you teleport to his position, they both make a simultaneous attack against each other, and then if he kills the opponent, you score the card. Now, as previously said, the Cobra cult leader, Jeffrey, the deadly Jeffrey, he is tough. He's got a Batman stat line, and as a result, even with Weapon Master giving him +1 to attack rolls, he didn't get a crit for a start. All said and done, Ra's was only able to do 2 blood to him, and on the strike back that Jeffrey was allowed, he did 2 blood damage to Ra's. So it was a draw. The card is discarded, it did not score, and now the leaders are locked in mortal combat. League Acolyte 3 with the Falcon activated, didn't have Audacity, so he just stood still. His only action was to fire a ranged attack at the Cobra hybrid. He fired his once per game, he's only got 1 of them. Poison arrow with caustic as well. He shot it, the strength die got through, as did the attack roll, so it did 2 blood on both hits and 2 stacks of poison as well, presumably. I'm actually not sure if the strength die would apply a second application of the poison, or if it would still just be the 1. Presumably it would be 2 stacks, but if that's wrong, apologies, please do correct. Anyway, that is his activation, he can't do anything else. Back over to the cult. The Nagus activated for the cult without Audacity, so all he did was a move action, but first he played Confusion as a resource, not as an objective. During a friendly model's activation, you can move another friendly model up to 3. The Lancehead Soldier, there, he moved forwards 3 inches, well, kind of diagonally. He went up 3 inches. League Acolyte 1 was next up, who was roughly next to Ubu here, without Audacity, but he was close enough to Ra's that he got a free manipulate. He just did a move action, he hopped over the car so he suffered impaired movement, but it was still enough to get him there. He then used the free manipulate to do a reveal on the enemy suspect marker that was next to Ra's, which in turn scored the Fire Risers. Reveal an enemy suspect marker within 6 inches of your boss, is point blank next to him, so obviously that scores. Didn't get to do an attack, but I guess more importantly he did score some victory points. Jeffrey, Destroyer of Worlds, activated with Audacity. He moved away from Raish to try and get an easy kill, but as it turns out, he whiffed his attacks on the Acolyte that just went. Only the strength die got through. He used his hidden sword, so it was a double blood. There is a case to be made for him doing close combat attacks. I mentioned already, I think, that he has reinforced gloves, so he's hitting for double stun. He also has Master Fighter, which is +1 or rerolls, but only if you're doing unhanded. Unarmed, rather. Unhanded. So there is a case to be made for him dishing out stun damage instead of blood, but this is just... they want the blood to flow, I guess. But that's 2 blood to the Acolyte. He has 4 left. Nothing scored there. Oh, it is also worth mentioning there is a Void Priest spell, or skill, I don't know what to refer to it as, that only the leader can do, where he targets a friendly model within 4 and heals it for 2. It isn't specific in its wording whether or not he can target himself, because he's technically within 4 of himself, but he's issuing the... it's one of those weird interactions where you really should be specific about whether or not it affects himself. Can he heal himself? He is within 4 of himself, and usually in this game that does mean you can apply it to yourself. So he is going to heal the 2 blood that he has on him for 4... it's 4 or 6 points, it's quite expensive. So he is going to heal it, but that might be wrong. The wording just says friendly model within 4 and the leader has to be the one to do the Void Priest spell. That's all it says, so don't know. Ubu activated and he decided to try his hand at going after Lady Eve with Audacity, so he moved and then attacked her. She still had that buff to her defense that she activated in the first turn, putting her at defense 5 for the attack, and that spared her 2 hits getting through. The strength I whiffed. 2 basic attacks would have gotten through had her defense not been that high, but nope, so couldn't get through the defense 5. She is now back down to defense 4, however, unless she buffs next turn, I suppose. Oh, also, totally forgot, this is another little kind of weird rule interaction. Another We Cannot Be Defeated has been drawn, and presumably can score. Ubu hasn't played a scoring card in his activation. It scores in phase 3, have at least 3 suspect markers that are within 6 of each other. The same 3 still exist and haven't been touched, so presumably because it's a new phase, it's allowed to be scored. I don't know. We're getting a lot of weird rule interactions in this match. As far as things are, because none of those markers got removed, this seems right, so this is scoring. The Lancehead Soldier was the next to activate, and thanks to the extra 3 inches of movement he got during the Nagus' turn, it meant he was starting within 8 of his leader, which means he has a free manipulate on top of his normal actions, and he had Audacity, so he did a move, then he did his normal manipulate to reveal the suspect marker that was next to the fight going on up there, and then he used his free manipulate to put down one of his own suspect markers. So now it's back over to the League of Assassins. Who hasn't gone for them yet? Oh, the poisoned person locked in Mortal Kombat with the giant snake over there. And I think that might be it. Yeah, I think it is. So his options were limited thanks to not having Audacity. If he'd had Damien's Audacity, things would have been different. So he just stayed in hand-to-hand combat with the Cobra mutant snake man. And he doesn't have any reinforced gloves or anything like that, so he's just doing 1 stun per punch. 3 managed to get through. The roll was annoyingly good. So that is 3 stun to the giant lizard, and now it's over to the Void Priest to end off the turn fully. So the Void Priest's turn was simple enough. He just did a move action. He didn't have Audacity, but he did start close enough to Jeffrey that he had a free manipulate. He used that for a reveal on the suspect marker there, which has scored Disturbance. Reveal an enemy suspect marker. After revealing it, you must have more in play. They do. They have 1, 2, 3, 4 versus 1, 2, 3. So it's scored. So we'll go into the end phase now and also do our poison checks to see if anyone takes additional damage from that. So at the end of that battle round, the Cobra Hybrid passed their endurance check for the poison, so it drops down 1 level to level 1. The Acolyte that's poisoned passed the check, so he stays poisoned, but he doesn't take any damage. Everyone who has stun damage, which I think is just a hybrid, loses 1. And also in the end phase, for the Cobra Cult, Stick to the Plan has been scored. You must have more suspect markers in play than your opponent. Took a long time, but it finally scored. So with that, we're going into Battle Round 3, the penultimate round, with the League of Assassins taking first activation. But we'll be back in case there's any objectives being played and showing you where Audacity is. So still a very messy table at the top of turn 3. You can see where Audacity has been given out. Basically everyone on this side of the table except the Void Priest and the Acolyte. There is one phase 1 card being played, another from the Ashes, and it is being played over this side of the table on the hybrid Cobra there. And you can see who has Audacity there too. So with that, let's see what the League do with their first activation. So the Acolyte in a Spot of Bother was the first activation. With Audacity, he used a special action to use Good Aim, so he can move and fire and gets +1 to his attack rolls. So he fell back and then used his once per game exploding enervating arrow on the Cobra hybrid. It got through with just the strength die. It did 2 blood, so he's at 6 now of 8, so he's 2 away from dying. The explosive roll also caught the lance head, but the strength roll didn't go through, so he took nothing. Enervating is just that you can't use effort, so -2 effort limit for the snake, and plus his injuries means he can't use effort at all. We're staying over here as the Cobra hybrid activated with Audacity. He moved into the Acolyte that has not shot yet, so that it can't because it doesn't have Audacity, and bit at him with his snake mouth. 2 hits got through, so that's 2 blood, 2 stun, and also did poison. No crit on the strength die though, so no paralyze. Ubu was next up. He tried to inspire fear in Lady Eve, but she was having none of it. So then he pulled back because he had Audacity, and then he did a attack. He has reach on his scimitar, so as long as he's within 1 he can still attack her without being base to base. With only defense 4, his attack roll was appalling unfortunately, so only 1 hit got through with his scimitar with strength die got through for 2 blood to Lady Eve. Jeffrey, whose might makes everyone tremble before him, activated. He initiated his attacks with his hidden sword. 3 hits got through for 6 blood. This Acolyte has been splatted on the front of that car, thus scoring dirty job for Cobra Kali Yuga, making enemy model KO or casualty. It's just 1 point. Oh, I forgot to mention at the top of the video, but obviously there's no unique objective deck for the Cobra Cult. They are using just neutral cards, but that is that. And then he used a movement action to fall back into the alleyway to kind of block off that suspect marker in there. Acolyte 2 with his dual blades activated next with Audacity. He moved and chased down the Void Priest, stabbed him in the back, but only 2 attacks got through with his combo, etc. for 2 blood in total. The Void Priest I think has 5 HP endurance, so he's got 3 left. The Lance Head Soldier activated with Audacity, did a move action, and then rather than trying to initiate an attack, he stopped short and put down a suspect marker instead, because it scored Stake Your Claim, place a suspect marker within the enemy's deployment zone, which is where that is, because it was 8 inches up from the line. Ray Shall Go activated and turned around and turned his attention to Lady Eve, striking her in the back, and all said and done, did a massive 6 blood damage, which would have been enough just to outright kill her, but she already had 2 on her anyway, so she's double dead. He did also activate Critical Strike to try and just insta-kill, but it didn't proc, because the strength die missed, despite a reroll as well. But Raish managed to take her out. She is gone, so now it's over to either the Nagus or the Void Priest. The Void Priest activated without Audacity and too far away from Jeffrey to get a free manipulate, so he fell back next to this suspect marker and couldn't do anything with it. So now the only person left who hasn't gone for the League is unfortunately the person who can't shoot an arrow point blank to kill the Cobra. So we'll see what he does. So he had no other choice but to just fall back. Also, it's not likely, well I mean it literally can't happen now, but when Lady Eve was taken out from the shadows obviously is immediately unattainable because it wasn't the Cobra hybrid, so that is now discarded. So because he didn't have Audacity either, nothing special here from the Nagus, he didn't want to shoot outside of his optimal range at the Acolyte there, so he just moved forwards to where you can see him, taking us to the end of the round. So at the end of the penultimate round there is no additional objective cards being played. Everyone who is poisoned managed to fight off the effects and took no damage. Everyone with stun has healed 1 stun damage. So with that we're going into the final round, and it's the League of Assassins going first, but we'll first of all of course show you where Audacity is and whether or not any objective cards are being played in Phase 1 or Phase 2. So at the start of the penultimate round you can see where Audacity is. It's almost everyone left on the table except the Nagus and the Falconry Acolyte there. There is 1 objective card being played by the Cobra Cult. Die hard, choose one of your models that isn't the boss. If he lives to the end of the round, score the card. It is going to be played on the Nagus. Him right there. To maybe try and draw some fire away from the hybrid. So that's it. Into the League's first activation for their final turn. So the Falcon Ray Acolyte was the first to activate, knowing full well that the Nagus is at full HP. Shot instead at the Hybrid in the open as well, and the arrow and the strength I got through, so that would be 4 blood, although 2 was all that was required to remove him, so he will not be getting a turn, and his Audacity marker is wasted. It's a simple scramble for last minute victory points, as the last turn often is. The Void Priest activated, he did a reveal on the enemy suspect marker, he ended his last turn next to scoring a disturbance, because now they definitely have more suspect markers than the League. Then he did a move action and has retreated all the way over here. Acolyte 2 activated with Audacity, he fell back next to this enemy suspect marker, placing one of his own with a manipulate and scoring an under their noses for being within 4 of an enemy. Simple as. The Lancehead Soldier activated with Audacity, and then rather than going for the kill, walked over here and put down another suspect marker in order to score another, for 2 turns in a row, stake your claim for putting a suspect marker in the enemy deployment zone. Another 1 victory point for the cult. As eager as Raish was for a kill, he opted instead to fall back, put down a suspect marker outside of 4 of that, but within 4 of that barely, to score the final under their noses for 2 more victory points. Back over to the cult. So Jeffrey also decided to play the objectives, ignoring wanting to bloody Raish's nose, moved over here, revealed the suspect marker that was next to the car there, just outside of Ubu's touching range, and that scored disturbance. Reveal an enemy suspect marker, have more than the opponent, they definitely do. 2 more victory points for the cult. So it would be the next League of Assassins turn, which means Ubu or the Acolyte over there, neither of them can do anything that will result in any scoring. Ubu can't reach anybody, even if he somehow, I don't think it's possible for him to kill Jeffrey, but even if he did, that's not going to score anything. And the Acolyte over here, even if he had perfect damage, it would only do 4 damage to Vanagus, which is not enough to kill him to avoid Die Hard being scored. So the only thing that matters to end the game off is whether or not the automatic pistols on the Nagus can kill him on the off chance there's an objective card to be scored there. The Nagus unleashed his assault on the Acolyte, got 2 hits through for 1 blood, 1 stun each, 2 blood, 2 stun in total, which was enough to kill him, and as a result score a dirty job for 1 victory point. And as we're now at the end of the game as well, the Nagus obviously lived, so Die Hard is scoring as well, so that's 3 victory points. We'll come back real quick to see if there's any end of phase scoring, and then we'll see the final scores. So there is but a single card being played in the end phase of this turn. It's a stick to the plan by the Cobra Cult. Have more suspect markers in play than your opponent at the end of a turn. They most certainly do, so that is 2 victory points. Very excited to see who's won this one, because that was a lot of frenzied scoring right at the end there. So here we have our objective decks. It's time to see who wins. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14 points to the League. 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. It wasn't as close as it felt like on the table. The Cobra Cult has stolen it with 19 to 14 at the end there. Not necessarily through any of their Cobra Cult shenanigans. Didn't even do commando tactics once because there wasn't really the opportunity or the need. They even were killing better than the League were originally. Is that down to lucky card draws in the last turn? A little bit on the last turn. I feel like that would have made the difference of at least 4 victory points, just how swingy it was at the end there with what got drawn. But you know, it's hard to say. That was a fun one. First showing of the Cobra Kali Yuga cult. Probably done some mistakes with them at some point. Definitely did not utilise their faith points as optimally as perhaps could be. But it is a bit weird translating them into 3rd edition as well, because the cards that come with them are 2nd edition and their spells, chants, whatever you want to call them, are different in 3rd edition. You have to use the online PDF for them, the cult PDF if you're curious. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed that. Please do continue to show your support if you want to see more Batman in the future. And until next time, ta-ta for now.